Welcome to another video from theplayersaid.com. My name's Alexander.
And I'm Grant.
And we're here at San Diego, or SD HistCon, and we sat down with Trevor Bender, who's a war game designer, been around the block for a couple of years now, and designed some of my favorite expansions to my favorite game, Labyrinth. But we're sitting down today, and just we're going to talk about what you've got coming up, and we have a pre-production copy of...
It's Korea, the Fight Across the 38th, which will appear in C3I number 38, approximately December of 2024.
So, did Roger want to put it in C3I 38 because of the title of it?
You know, that was coincidental, and neither he nor I actually discovered that. It was somebody who saw a picture on Twitter and said, "Oh, how clever that was!" Yeah, we.
And did you just say, "Yes, yes"?
And too honest. What we did design it for, though, was the 75th anniversary of the start of the Korean conflict, which is next June.
Yeah.
So, Korea. Does this follow a system? Is this part of a series?
It is. It's the third game in the C3I Combined Arms series. The first one was Kursk, showing here. Second one, Desert Victory. So it's number 34, number 36, and number 38. They're coming out in approximately 2-year increments. And they use very similar systems. Kursk was one that they're all based on Battle for Moscow, that very simple game that Frank Chadwick came out with in 1985 to introduce players to wargaming. We want to model that. Some of the characteristics are one-hex stacking, combat before movement, except for in certain special situations, and things of that nature. It's a very simple interactive game. This one is, of course, more complex than Battle for Moscow because there's more counters, different situation.
Got it.
Now, when it comes to kind of topics, obviously we've had Desert Victory and Battle for Kursk, with World War II kind of conflict. Was it your choice or your desire to do a Korea game, or was that a brief that was given to you?
So, that's a good question. Kursk was my chosen topic, and then I gave Roger several topics for the next series. He chose North Africa for Desert Victory, and this one we jointly decided upon based on the 75th anniversary. We actually thought about rushing a D-Day version for the 80th anniversary of D-Day, which just happened this year. Yeah. Wasn't enough time to complete that. Though if you look to where the system might go, Battle of Bulge is on the list, and also I've been thinking more recently of Operation Cobra, the breakout from D-Day, might fit the scale a little bit better than even Battle of Bulge.
Okay. So you actually have a couple volumes that you've got in your mind.
I do, and I'm not averse, and Roger's not averse to other designers picking it up. You know, we saw that with Mark Herman's Gettysburg and Waterloo design, where another designer came in and created Beatties, the Spanish campaign. That was fantastic.
Yeah.
So same way, take the system and run with it.
Yeah.
So, with Korea itself, what are kind of the hallmarks or the unique things that set it apart from kind of the other volumes in the series? What's kind of the new stuff that we can expect that's Korea?
Neither of these games simulated air power. Korea definitely had to with the U.S. air superiority, although we do have a MiG-15 that can fly around and a MiG Alley up here in the north and interfere with operations there. Air power is the first thing. Also amphibious assault. That was not present in the other games. The UN player can amphibious assault only with American units and only at ports. So the ports become paramount. You know, there was the famous landing at Incheon and of course Wonsan and Hungman up there. But you could land at other places too. And so those are the two major changes. You will also see something else that's new in the system for the Chinese People's Volunteer Army. They can do a human wave assault. Players of the system will be familiar with support where units behind the lines can add a combat modifier to shift the odds up. Now with Human Wave, units behind the lines, 2 hexes can also add that in.
Wow.
But if they're doing a Human Wave, they will automatically take a 1-step loss. If Allied air power is involved, they'll take a 2nd-step loss, if there's at least 2 aircraft. So
very risky.
It is more costly.
Yeah.
And over time, you'll see that attrition of the PVA, which occurred historically. By the time the armistice was begun in June of 1951, the discussions, that is, both sides were depleted. And it took 2 years to pin it, the deal, but not much maneuvering after that.
Got it.
So, when it comes to the kind of unique armistice of the Korean War, what are the victory conditions and how is that kind of adjudicated with winning, losing, and signing a peace that's kind of somewhere in between?
I love that you brought that up because that is one area where this is much different. Both sides have an automatic victory condition. It's capturing their supply hub. So, like Desert Victory, this is kind of a rubber band effect with you going up and down the peninsula like you did in North Africa. So North Koreans, this is set up right now for the beginning invasion. All of the South Korean units are half strength, North Korean are at full strength. No Allied involvement yet. If they capture Pusan down here at the bottom, right here, automatic victory. You just got to move into the hex and then game over. Similarly, if the Allies capture Man Pope on the Yalu River, automatic victory, game over. Barring either of those situations, whichever side controls the capital of the opponent, they win the game as an intermediate level of victory at the end of the game. If both sides control each other's capital, which we have seen in playtest, that's possible with a mixed-up game, the communist player wins ties. Communist player always wins ties. Barring that, the lower level of victory is whichever side controls the most full hexes north or south of the 38th parallel. Historically, this orange line is the historical DMZ. The Allies won a marginal victory by 2 hexes. So that's how close it was in the actual conflict.
When it comes to playtesting and having seen it kind of been played over and over again, are the results kind of similar to that? Do you find the historical outcome more, or is it kind of all over the place and we get a kind of a cool experience of who knows what we get when we set it up?
Between 2 experienced players who know how to protect their supply centers from an end run, yes, it does. It does largely model the historical results. Now, I've added an armistice rule because of that, because the game can be played 13 turns. But frequently around turn 10 or 11, both sides have shot their wad, and not much is going to change. And so you can just discuss as players, hey, it's going to be this way. Well, let me try making a roll for your capital. I might get it. So you roll a dice in anticipation of that, and then decide how the game will win.
Just call
so
it.
you don't have to play it all the way.
So what's the play time?
About 4
obviously
hours.
13 turns. Huh?
Yeah, about 4 hours
About
is really
4
good
hours.
for players
Okay.
to know the game very well.
Okay.
Early turns are fast. Both sides only have 8 units on the map to begin with, but then on turn 6, the People's Volunteer Army arrives
Which is a lot.
with 24 divisions ready to go.
Lots of movement.
It's unique how they arrive too. They don't just cross the Yalu; they show up in Mig Alley anywhere not an Allied zone of control. So if an Allied unit's driving towards the Yalu, they could find themselves surrounded.
And I had, the question left my brain. No.
You've lost it.
Oh my gosh, yeah, no, oh no.
So how long have you been working on this one?
It's interesting you bring that up. Most magazine games I do for Roger will pick the design topic in January of the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
January, February timeframe, nail it down. The map has to go final by the end of August to meet a production deadline in December. The counters have to go final about a month later, and the rule book about a month later after that. So that's the timeline I'm on. So usually it's about 8 months of active involvement to play test to get the map perfect. And then the counters too shortly thereafter. But the rule book you can adjust a little bit longer. And it's interesting because we have so many of these conventions, GMT, Weekend at the Warehouse, and this con. Even playtesting it today, a player gave me a great idea for an optional rule that we'll have to add in. It's just fantastic. So I'm excited that we can tweak it till the end, so to speak.
Yeah. Okay.
I remember my question. I'm very tired. It was, so typically with the C3Is, there's, you'll put like designer notes and history and articles in there. Are we expecting supporting material, and how much research goes into those kinds of ancillary parts that we find in the magazine but not necessarily in the game as well?
Yeah, that's a good question. Roger in the past does deluxe versions of some of his magazine games when there's enough demand. We did that for Kursk, also Gettysburg and Waterloo. For Desert Victory, we're not going to do a deluxe version, but instead we're going to support it with articles in the future C3I, including scenarios and some clarification rules to make it easier to understand. We'll see how Korea goes, whether it goes deluxe or not. It's all based on sales and popular demand, that sort of thing. But typically in a deluxe version, you would find additional optional rules, maybe additional counterfactuals that could be done, and of course a hard number map.
And I would be remiss if I did not have you on camera and ask about if there's any future, anything for Labyrinth.
I'm glad you bring that up. So I cannot
Because you
help.
did Forever War. When was that?
Yeah, so I did for Awakening first. That covered
Right.
the Arab Springs. That card event deck was 2010 to 2015.
Okay.
Forever War is 2015 to 2020. And as just by automatic, when I listen to the news, I wrote down the names of event cards that we could model.
Got it.
We could do 2020 to 2015 or 2025.
Yeah.
We thought, a few years ago that it wouldn't go anywhere, but the Middle East has exploded in different ways than we anticipated in the last few years. And of course, the drawdown from Afghanistan was quite a bit different. That could be modeled in a different way. And Iran is a true adversary towards the free world, elements. It's interesting to play all around that. And of course, ISIS was defeated, but it's making a comeback slowly. and there's still things going on in Africa. So there is more there. Now, what you are maybe hinting at is there is going to be a prequel to Labyrinth.
Yeah.
That's being worked on by a different designer, and that will cover about 10 years before the base Labyrinth comes in.
It's the rise of Alkite.
It is.
K-Dub, so.
Yeah, prior to 9/11.
Yeah. Well, we do enjoy your expansions to Labyrinth. That's one of our favorite
Oh
games
yes,
of all time.
it might be my favorite two-player game
it's
ever.
just so good.
Well, so replayability now.
Oh, and it just, there's so much decision making and it's player driven, where other games are so unlike that, where like you make everything happen. And other games it's like, oh, my guys are lined up, new guys lined up, and we shoot them, but they were lined up. But Labyrinth, it's like, no. Like you make happen whatever you want to make happen within the scope of your cards.
There's
And
no
it's-
front lines. You can
No,
appear
it's
anywhere.
so good. And the expansions that add those levels of historicity and unique and different situations in which to play have been wonderful as well. So thank you very much for that as well.
Yeah.
But appreciate you sitting down and kind of walking through Korea with us.
And sorry we didn't get a chance to sit down and actually play.
Oh, don't worry about that.
But I'm glad we were able to chat with you, and because we do love C3I magazine.
Yes.
We'll read it cover to cover.
And this is one of the few games that we have a designer on, and you'll be able to get this in 2 months. Normally it's like, a year and a half, maybe, we don't know the publisher. You will be able to get this very soon. I'm very excited for it. I love C3I, and I'm excited to play another Korean war game. We've played a couple, but not as many. So having something that's accessible and playable in a session, very exciting.
You bring that up. It's interesting. In many ways, the Korean War is the forgotten war in game design as well.
I fully
It's just
agree.
not covered. I also want to thank you both for having the wives seminar a couple days ago. It was so fun to hear the perspective of both your wives, to meet them and how they enjoy gaming in a different way and pursuing hobbies in equal amounts and so forth. I shared that with my wife too. So.
Yeah, well, good. Yeah, they enjoyed it. I think they enjoyed it.
Yeah, they did. But appreciate you sitting down with us, and appreciate everyone for tuning in. I've been Alexander for thePlayersAid.com.
And I'm Grant. Thank you,
Thank
Trevor.
you so much.